When I was 6 years old, I thought that August 11th, 1955 was the worst day of my life. That was the day that my little sister Linda was born, and from the very first, she seemed to be everywhere, following me around, breaking my toys, getting me in trouble, and always being the center of attention. But even I had to admit, she was awfully cute. Not to mention very clean and neat. Okay, so I was jealous. However, most of the time, this is how I thought of her. Although sometimes I did wonder what she was thinking about me. But she was my baby sister, and I wasn't immune to her charms either. That doesn't mean I couldn't have done without the matching dresses. As she got older, she got cuter, more mischievous, and more charming. And oh, that smile. I don't think anyone ever had to say to her, "Smile for the camera, Linda." She was smiling already. She was the little kid that everyone wanted to play with, and the big kids too. And once she made a friend, they became a friend for life. Almost everyone she came in contact with ended up loving her, although I did have my doubts about some of the characters she hung out with. In high school, Linda was a pretty normal kid, if you consider normal being involved in everything. She was in shows, played sports, was a class cheerleader, prom committee chairman, class vice president, and for some reason was voted done most for her class. Linda graduated with honors from the University of Maryland with a degree in television and film. She worked as a producer at Channel 9, Prescott & Associates, and freelanced all over Washington, D.C. Her film credits included location manager for DC Cop, No Way Out, Born Yesterday, and many more. She won awards everywhere she worked, and especially at AdWorks, where she became the broadcast producer. Oh, and did I mention she gave me my first job in television? Television production, that is. She also owned the first sailboat in the family and got me into sailing. Not only that, but once she grew up and stopped being a pest, she became my best friend and the perfect traveling companion. When I look back over pictures of our trips, there would be Linda, with her arms wide open as if to say, "Here I am, isn't all of this wonderful?" And on top of all her other talents, she made beautiful quilts she gave as gifts to her friends. For New Year's 1997, our whole family went on a cruise.
Here we are, sunny Florida. She's drinking.
We were all in great spirits, and Linda was her normal, active self. She exercised daily, didn't smoke, rarely drank, hated coffee, and didn't have a spare inch of flesh on her. And she looked terrific. But a couple of months later, she started feeling tired all the time. And on April 21st, she was diagnosed with leukemia. Linda faced having leukemia the way she had faced every challenge in her life, with a great deal of determination and with a smile on her face. Within days of her diagnosis, she was in the hospital starting chemotherapy. This is obviously not a pleasant procedure, but you wouldn't have known it from Linda's demeanor. Her room became party central, and she became the favorite patient of every nurse on the floor. There were side effects, but the worst that happened to her was she got the chicken pox. After 20 days, she was released from the hospital, a new record according to her doctors. She immediately began trying to resume as much of an ordinary life as possible. In mid-June, she returned to the hospital for a consolidation round of chemo, and at that time, the doctors pronounced her in full remission. They also found that our brother Barry could be a donor if she needed a bone marrow transplant. But she had done so well through all the chemo and seemed so healthy, we were sure she was cured and would never need further treatment. In September, Linda received a letter from her family doctor who told her, "It has been a real pleasure for me and a learning experience to watch someone remain so cheerful, intelligent, and delightful during what obviously is a very tough process." 2 weeks later, she relapsed. She needed a bone marrow transplant to save her life, but it involved many serious risks, including graft versus host disease. She took this setback in stride like she had taken everything else that had been thrown at her, and began her hospital stay by taking pictures of everyone who came to see her, looking silly in gowns and booties. She fought like hell, and always kept her positive outlook, but she could not conquer the graft versus host disease. And although she never gave up the fight, and never stopped trying to smile, her body was not as strong as her spirit and her determination. December 12th, 1997, the worst day of my life. The best way I can think of to pay tribute to my extraordinary sister is to support the Leukemia Society of America in order to find a cure to keep someone else's loved one from sharing Linda's fate. I know she would want that too.